It's another episode of the Astrology of Terrible Things.
Ooh. Woo, yay.
We're the podcast that uses astrology to answer the question, why do bad things happen? I'm your host, Carly Heath, and I'm a writer in Los Angeles. I'm here with our new co-host, Emily Simile, a teacher and TikToker who single-handedly revived this podcast with her Astrology of Terrible Things TikTok series. Watch it on her TikTok at Emily Simile, Emily spelled with an I-E instead of a Y. And we've been going through a Jupiter in Cancer transit since July of 2024. And we have a few months left of it. And then the second half of this year, it's bye-bye Jupiter in Cancer. And that's also when the chaos of 2026 is going to really go and do its thing. So we're all bracing for that. But I want to hear your Jupiter in Cancer story so far.
Yeah. So I'm a Pisces rising. So Cancer rules over my fifth house. Yeah. Fifth house of fun and sexuality and sex, romance, but it's also the house of children. And so thank God I'm gay because no babies, not here. But that's just me personally. I've actually been keeping track of all of the baby announcements, engagements, and weddings that I've seen. I'm also 25. And so a lot of people around my age and like my peers and stuff are kind of at some of those stages of life. I feel so much further away from that, but I have seen
wait 5 years and it'll be the divorce time.
Oh,
I'll be like, all my friends are getting divorced.
It's like, yay. Oh my gosh. And then we can have divorce parties, which like they
should be a thing.
Do you watch reality TV, Secret Lives of Mormon Wives?
I don't. No.
That's okay. One of the girls on Secret Lives of Mormon Wives had a divorce party and she's only like 22 or something.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Mormon, for real.
Yeah, for real. But thank God that she got out of that because, she's thriving now. So we love that. But for me, like, and the people, at least the people that I've observed through social media are just like people like in my general circles. I've seen 9 baby announcements.
Oh my God.
I've listed all of these. I have 32 engagements and 13 weddings. So yeah, I have been keeping track of these ever since July 2025. And ever since Jupiter went into my fifth house. I've been having fun with my girlfriend. We've been having a great time. So that's how Saturn, Jupiter, Cancer, and Jupiter has been going for me. I keep saying Saturn, but yes. How about you?
So this is one of those things where I get to feel like a fancy magical person who can predict the future because I work for the labor union SAG-AFTRA, Screen Actors Guild. And so everyone there is into astrology. And so I get asked a lot of astrology questions. And so we had been, the video game performers had been on strike for a very long time. And all the staff was working really hard on it. And so someone asked me, when do you think the strike will be over? When they found out I was an astrology person. And I said, when did Jupiter enter Cancer? Was it July 17th? June 17th. Oh God, I forgot.
June, July something. I can look it up.
But we were at a little dinner thing.
June 9th.
Okay.
2025.
So I said,
but I think it went back and forth a little bit. Sorry. Okay. I interrupted you like 3 times.
Yeah. Well, whatever the date was that Jupiter would be entering Cancer, I think I said June 9th. I said June 9th, 2025. Our labor union's birth chart. I have the birth chart of our labor union. We're Sagittarius rising right now. Jupiter's in Gemini where it doesn't do well. Jupiter goes into Cancer. That is when we're going to see a major turning point in the strike. And she's like, but that's so soon. And I said, watch. As soon as Jupiter entered Cancer, it was announced that a tentative agreement had been reached and the strike was going to be over.
I
And
love that.
when I passed her in the halls, I was like, see, I said it. I told you I said it. And I've had, when you like have kind of a high profile job, you get to do magical astrology things like that. And you can be like, I said it. Look
at me. I was right. Yes. Oh my gosh. That's how I felt whenever I was like, I have a weird feeling that even though I just moved, I feel like I'm going to have to move again. And that was Uranus moving into my 4th house because of the Taurus and Jupiter. What am I talking about? Taurus and Gemini. Sorry. I keep
You mean Uranus and Gemini?
Yes. Oh my goodness. I cannot talk today. Is it a Mercury retrograde right now? I don't think it is. We just ended that.
Look at the planets. I haven't looked at it enough today.
Yeah.
Jupiter in Cancer for me it's my 10th house. I feel like I've been mother to so many creatures. I've found a turtle. I found 2 turtles now just on the bike path on the sidewalk. Turtles where turtles shouldn't be. I found a bird, a dog, 2 cats. Yeah, so 2 cats, dog, 2 turtles, and a bird. And these are all animals that were like not eating. Yeah. And so I was like working really hard on feeding them and getting them to eat. And my cat who's 19 years old, he went through a weird thing where he suddenly stopped eating and he was really sick. And so a thing I have to feed them is baby food to get, to like syringe feed baby food into their mouth. And so I'm like, I don't have babies. I don't want babies, but like I'm buying Gerber baby food, carts full of Gerber baby food and bring it home to these animals who will not eat and syringe feeding baby food into their mouth. And wow. I know. And so it's very Cancer, Jupiter.
Yeah. Yeah, taking care of these animals
and like having to hand feed them like I'm their mother, And also I had a friend who was going through an emotional crisis and she wasn't eating either. And so I like bought food for her, sat with her, and I'm like, you need to eat.
Yeah. That's so interesting. Yeah, very interesting.
And overall, I've also been very just focused on nurturing myself, I guess you could say too. Cause last year I was just like podcasting, my other podcasts. I'm cheating on you, Astrology of Terrible Things. And this year I was just like, I need to sleep when I can. I need to make sure I'm eating healthy and doing all the healthy Cancer body things and paying attention to my rhythms. And if I'm tired, then I'm going to call in sick and sleep and making sure that I do that. Yeah.
Taking time to rest when you deserve it.
Yeah. Yeah. And really following the cycle of the moon too. When the moon is conjunct Saturn, nothing happens. Yeah. Not doing the thing, taking a break. Yes. So many sick animals. It's been crazy. I'm so excited because you are going to share a chart and I'm going to have to figure out what terrible thing happened during this day.
Yes. I'm excited to show it to you. I feel like okay, here we go.
Okay. So this is, I'm going to talk through it. This is a Libra rising chart, very appropriate for me. Also a Libra rising. Interestingly, the ruler, Venus, is debilitated in the 12th house because it's a Mercury ruled 12th house. So this is a very 12th house chart. So where's Mercury? Mercury is in the 11th, co-present with Leo. So
and it's retrograde.
So co-present with the sun. What did I say? Leo.
You said Leo. No, we're doing the same thing.
And is that with the North Node there too?
Yes.
Okay. So and retrograde Mercury combusts the sun. This is a day chart. So the most challenging planet, the bad planet, is Mars in Scorpio in the 2nd house, which is making me think of finances. And it's it had just passed an opposition to Jupiter and an opposition to Saturn. And it's going into an opposition with Saturn, but it's still kind of wide, right? But it's kind of right between Jupiter and Saturn. So co-present Jupiter and Saturn in Taurus. Okay. That only happens once every 20 years.
And we also have this fixed grand cross going on here. So definitely some significant aspects going on.
Pluto in the third house.
Conjunct the moon.
The moon is conjunct Pluto in the third house, which makes me think of a community or a neighborhood, or transportation. It could also be a car. Jupiter ruled, though Jupiter in Taurus, again, debilitated, being supplied by debilitated Venus. Our final dispositor is the sun. So this makes me think of fathers, a solar figure, a king, a leader, a famous person, 11th house group, so a group where there's miscommunication happening, and then there's this female element in the 12th house, seclusion, trapped, like a father figure trapping a father figure or a leader of a group. It's giving cult leader and female, like wife or daughter or sister or a woman trapped, kidnapped in the hospital. But because it's, now let's see, and then there's the 8th house Saturn. So is there death?
Sorry, I'm not saying anything because I kind of like just hearing all of your, how you're breaking it down. And then I'll just tell you afterwards. I like hearing it.
So it's giving like the men are bad. It's giving the men are bad. The men are the problem. The men are killing, and entrapping women, keeping women confined, making women sick.
Once I reveal what this is, you're going to be like, oh, this makes, because everything you're saying is like, it's hitting.
Yeah.
But like in different ways. So, yeah.
And then there's the moon moving into a conjunction with Pluto of it all, that power struggle, but also that like illness, also that like to me, this seems like a group that's trying to change. And there's a children element of it too, because there's the Neptune, Uranus children. So there's a group that's kind of trying to change, control women and children, and money, death, killing to do money, to like arms. It's feeling like arms. It's feeling like weapons.
Maybe also think about some other signification. Oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to say this. Significations of the 5th house.
Okay.
I think
Aquarius.
Yeah.
So outsiders, like children who are outsiders, and so Saturn is ruling the 5th house, and Saturn is in Taurus, Saturn in Taurus is fixed, unchanging. Permanent, with Jupiter there is giving religious, Jupiter's giving law, giving religion, but also the retrograde Mercury ruling both the 9th house and the 12th house is giving like the law is not doing things the right way. And
I also liked what you were talking about with the 11th house and the Leo stuff. I think you were definitely onto some stuff there too.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to wrap this up with like final thoughts, with final keywords. To me, this is giving a cult. This is giving a leader of a cult, which is involving men, involving weapons and money, and confining women, and leading to hospitalization, leading to death of children, and I'm getting the institutions are not doing what they should. Is this David Koresh and like the Branch Davidians?
No.
Okay.
That's okay.
It feels very David Koresh and Branch Davidians.
I don't think I know when. Ready? Let me.
Waco. It feels very Waco. I don't remember when that was.
Okay. Ready? So
it was in the 90s.
Yes. This is the chart of Woodstock 1999.
Oh, wow. So the fifth house of it isn't necessarily children, but it's about music and having fun and drugs.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And this is 100% the men suck in this situation. And
I don't know this story. Tell me the story.
Yes. This is actually a very interesting, pretty lengthy story. But I think before we talk about Woodstock 1999, I'm going to show the chart of Woodstock 1969 and kind of look at some of the things that went wrong there, kind of like go over it a little bit briefly. Ready? Let's see here. Okay. So this is Woodstock 1969. So I started the chart at 5:07 p.m. on Friday, August 15th, 1969. And this is in Bethel, New York.
And in that one, Saturn is in the fifth house.
Yes.
The ascendant is being ruled by Saturn, in the fifth house being ruled by Venus, an exalted Venus in Cancer. So this has a very, this is an event that's going to be remembered for a long period of time for being something that was fun and good times, though,
am I screen sharing my script?
Yeah. So I'm seeing just the chart.
Just the chart. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So Woodstock 1999 is definitely the more notorious iteration of Woodstock 1969. So, Woodstock 1969 was a music festival planned to be held from Friday, August 15th to Sunday, August 17th in 1969. And I think it's pretty funny that Woodstock was branded as an Aquarian experience, 3 days of peace and music, which I just think is kind of interesting because there's not a single Aquarius placement here. And also Aquarius is not the sign that I would associate with peace and music. That's definitely Libra. Yeah.
Or Pisces.
Or Pisces, yeah. But I do think it's kind of funny. They called it an Aquarian experience. So Woodstock was organized by 4 young and mostly inexperienced men. Artie Cornfield, Joel Roseman, John P. Roberts.
69 or 99?
This is 69.
Okay. Cool.
So I'll talk about 69 first. And a lot of the problems that were present in the 1969 festival would kind of be blown out of proportion in the 1999 festival. So I think that it's just kind of important to look at what went down in 1969 so that we can kind of see the similarities and where these problems started. And also there's a lot of similarities in the charts, which I thought were interesting. And we can go over all of that. But yeah. So Woodstock was a music festival organized by 4 young and mostly inexperienced men. Their names were Artie Cornfield, Joe Roseman, John P. Roberts, and most notably Michael Lang, who will come back to help organize the Woodstock 1999, the 30th anniversary festival. So Lang had been a part of organizing another music festival called the Miami Pop Festival. And that festival had about 25,000 attendees, and all of the other organizers had experience in the music industry and connections to music groups, but none of them had ever organized a music festival of this size before. So they were anticipating 50,000 attendees, but they ended up getting 500,000. And the organizers were just way in over their head. The festival was just too overwhelming. And so it just led to a lot of different problems. The location of the festival was held on a 600-acre dairy farm in a small town called Bethel, New York. Bethel
That's interesting because the Saturn and Taurus dairy farm cow.
Yes. I love that. Yes. Because I was looking at the 4th house and I was like, I wonder if there's anything funny 4th house going on, but it's in the the fifth house,
the
but
chart ruler, you know.
Yes, yeah. So Bethel was a small town in the Catskill Mountains, about 2 hours north of New York City, and it had a population of less than 4,000 people in 1969. And so they were not prepared in the slightest for how many people were going to be driving directly into their small town. And so the first problem of Woodstock 1969 is the traffic. So people were stuck in standstill, bumper to bumper traffic for hours trying to get to the festival. So it's also Saturn in the fifth house. The performances started late, and many people had to abandon their cars and just walk to the festival instead. And some of the acts were even stuck in traffic, and the organizers had to call for helicopters to come and pick them up and get them to the festival grounds. And there's no planets in the third house in this chart, but the sign ruling it is Pisces, and then Jupiter is in the 10th house, conjunct Uranus. It's like they definitely had to get creative with transportation in order to like make everything happen. And also with Pisces being ruled by Jupiter, expansion, growth, the population of this town, this local community greatly increased in size. And also to tie in the mutable water element of Pisces, it had just rained the day prior. And so everybody walking to the festival and it being on a farm, it was very, very muddy everywhere. And so okay, ready? Sorry. Yeah. Once people got to the festival, it was like nearly impossible to keep all the unticketed guests out of the venue. There wasn't a really good way to tell who had bought tickets ahead of time. The organizers were unable to install adequate fences, and eventually Woodstock just became a free concert with an estimated 500,000 attendees when they were only anticipating like 50,000. And so once Woodstock became free, the vendors on site became overwhelmed with the sheer amount of people and they ran out of food. So they had, the organizers had a commune, a hog farm commune from California led by a man called Wavy Gravy. He helped organize a free kitchen at the event to help feed everyone. And so everybody was kind of like relying on one another, and also the kindness of the locals and the community mindset to keep everyone fed and okay. It really was like a communal atmosphere, people looking out for one another. And this was also the expectation for security, to self-police, to look out for the people who might need help and take action. And I think that this is really evident in the astrological structure of the event, because we have Cancer ruling over the 7th house with Venus present here. And the 7th house rules over like people and partnerships, customers, clients. And so like all of these attendees are more like Cancer, like emotionally vulnerable, well-intentioned, wanting to keep things safe and comfortable. And then like to add on to that, we have the 9th house Virgo moon ruling over the 7th house, and also happening during a moon Pluto conjunction this time.
Jupiter in the 10th house, in that the public image is justice and fairness.
Yes.
But the problem,
love, not war.
I'm noticing though, is the Mars 12th house ruling the 11th house. So the group of people is the problem. Like,
yeah.
The event is good, but the group of people and the individual relationships are good, but the group as a whole.
I think at least in 1969, the people definitely, you know, like, it was a little crazy. I think, honestly, the Neptune on the 11th house, like everybody's doing drugs.
Yeah.
Everybody's high. And I think that people generally had more of like a look out for the people around you.
Yeah.
Virgo, like the Virgo moon ruling over the 7th house is like kind of, you're more aware of like who needs help when, and like also like actually just wanting to help. And so I think that people really were like trying their best to like be aware of their surroundings and be helpful to those around them, like sharing is caring sort of thing. There's actually no reports of interpersonal violence at Woodstock 1969, but there were 2 deaths. So the first one was Raymond Mizak, who was a 17-year-old boy from Newark, New Jersey. And like I talked about, there being mud. It had just rained the day prior. It was very muddy all over. There was a mudslide at the event, and a tractor ran over him while he was sleeping.
No. That seems like a very Saturn in Taurus sort of situation.
Yeah.
Like a tractor is a very Taurus thing.
I also think with the third house being ruled by Jupiter conjunct Uranus, like unexpected and unpreventable things happening with transportation, large transportation, objects losing control. Yeah, and also kind of adding into the traffic of it all too. There's so many different ways that you can look at a lot of these houses too. Like so many different topics are showing up in different ways, which I thought was really cool. And then the second death was an 18-year-old Richard Byler, who was suspected to have passed away from an overdose. And there were unfortunately many overdoses at Woodstock. Not all of them were fatal. But with there being almost 500,000 attendees, only one death from an overdose is honestly a bit miraculous. Like things could have been so much worse, especially looking at this chart. I'm like, things could have been so much worse. But it ended up being mostly fine. The 12th house, which I associate with like altered consciousness, it's being ruled by Sagittarius with Mars here. So there was definitely like an experimental, optimistic, like, why not sort of energy around like taking drugs. Like Sagittarius is beautiful fire, being ruled by Jupiter. They're willing to try a lot of things, to be open to new experiences. And like with Mars here, people are more inclined to just like take action, say, fuck it, get high without really thinking about the consequences sometimes, which it ended up being mostly okay in terms of that. And while there were so many problems, the bad traffic, the bad weather, little to no access to food and water and adequate hygiene facilities, Woodstock 1969 is still considered like a very defining moment for the baby boomer generation and the hippie and countercultural movements of the 1960s. And the lineup was pretty spectacular, featuring performances from legends such as Richie Havens, Santana, The Grateful Dead, Creedence Clearwater Revival, The Who, Janis Joplin, and Jimi Hendrix. But the thing was, because of the traffic, the performances didn't start until 5:07 p.m. on Friday when they were supposed to start at noon. And then the last performer, Jimi Hendrix, didn't take the stage until 9 a.m. Monday morning.
Oh my God.
So the festival was only supposed to run Friday to Sunday, but the traffic jam was literally so bad, it just made everything go much later. And then one other thing I think is astrologically significant to point out about Woodstock 1969 is again related to the 12th house Sagittarius Mars. There was actually a huge problem behind the scenes regarding electricity because of the recent weather making everything muddy, and also just all of the people. Concert goers were stepping on exposed wires. And the electrician said that if the power wasn't cut, it could result in a mass electrocution. And the organizers, though, they really didn't want to cut the power. They had already started late. They didn't want to ruin the vibe, which I feel like a mass electrocution might ruin the vibe just a little bit more than turning off the music and starting up back again tomorrow. But that's okay. That's just me. These guys in pure Sagittarius Mars fashion just decide to take a chance and see if the electrician can rewire things without stopping the performances. And in pure Sagittarius fashion, they got extremely lucky and things were fine. They didn't even have to stop their performances. I think it's especially interesting with like Jupiter conjunct Uranus ruling over that Sagittarius Mars in the 12th house. It's like how they were able to hide everything behind the scenes, and like no one knew but the organizers that this happened. So that's crazy to me. And is there anything else that you see about the 1969 chart that you want to talk about?
I was just thinking that the size of the crowd being bigger than expected, I see that in the Jupiter ruled Mars ruling the 11th house. So the idea that Mars in a Jupiter ruled sign where Jupiter is well placed, being supported by a dignified Venus, Jupiter is going to expand the size of that 11th house, even though Jupiter's not in the 11th house, because it rules, it's an indirect ruler of the 11th house. It's making it larger than it thought, than people thought it was going to be.
Definitely. Yeah, very much. Okay, so that's Woodstock 1969. So we kind of already have some problems arising, but things get worse. Now we have Woodstock 1999,
which would be the Saturn return of Woodstock.
Oh my gosh. Wow. I didn't even think about that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Happy Saturn return to Woodstock.
Yeah. And your Saturn return is not a good time, usually.
No. And it definitely was not a good time. It definitely does not have the same legacy as Woodstock 1969, which was more about love and peace and music and anti-war and like community. This one is very different. So the first being the venue. So Woodstock 1969 was on a dairy farm. Woodstock 1999 is held on Griffiths Air Force Base in Rome, New York. So not a wide open farm with hundreds of acres of nature. This is a military base surrounded by tall barbed wire fences, and the ground is covered in tarmac. And the weather, it was in the high 80s, so it was blazing hot, and the heat was exacerbated by the tarmac everywhere. And nothing says peace and music like a military base.
Yeah. Whose idea was that? Oh my God.
Well, let's get into the idea. So the organizers of the 30th anniversary festival were Michael Lang, again, from the original Woodstock, and John Scher. They believed that the infrastructure of the Air Force Base would help keep unticketed attendees out. There were already built-in fences and boundaries at the venue, so they could afford to hire less security and in turn make more money from ticket sales. Money, and you were talking about this in the chart, it's definitely at the forefront of this event because Woodstock 1969 turned into a free event. Michael Lang is like, well, I'm determined to turn a profit this time. And so we have Scorpio ruling the second house, with Mars here making an opposition to the 8th house Taurus, Jupiter, and Saturn. I'm just talking about Jupiter in this part, and Saturn, I guess. But it seems like I see this as they're taking advantage of the people present by making bare essentials like food and water extremely expensive. So they were increasing prices because they knew that attendees would have no other options because outside food and drink was not allowed. And it was so hot, people were experiencing extreme dehydration. And so in order to not die, attendees had to spend the $5 on one singular plastic water bottle. And this is 1999. So it's like, we're used to $5 water bottles at music festivals nowadays, but that's more like $10 water bottle if we're thinking about it then. Yes. Yeah. So it's like Scorpio, Mars in the second house. This is very selfish, possessive, related to money. And the opposition to the Taurus Jupiter in the 8th house is literally like, we're making money from other people's essential basic needs like food and water. We know you need it, so we're going to charge whatever we want for it. And then I also think with the Scorpio, Mars in the second house, the running water was contaminated with raw sewage. And so even all the free water was unsafe to drink. And I think that's so Scorpio, like fixed water. This is like poisonous water. Wasn't safe to drink.
Of the fences around the music festival, like the music being Venus, but the crowd being contained by a fence on a military.
And that Capricorn 4th house too. That's also very like
the military base of it.
That's so So, and another big difference is in the attendees. So we have instead of Cancer ruling over the 7th house, we have Aries over the 7th house here. So like the attitude of the attendees is definitely more defined by Mars than it is the moon. Instead of like people protecting and looking out for one another, everyone's really only thinking about themselves. This is more of like a selfish group of people and very dude heavy. Like the music and the acts There were over 30 performers, only 3 of them were women. And the music was a lot more, like the fans were a lot more men than there were women. And Aries, like the archetype is the masculine, the independent, the headstrong. It's ready to act, it's ready to fight. And Mars is like the planet of war, anger, fighting, competition. So like this archetype ruling over the 7th house makes for a much more aggressive set of concert goers. And then being ruled by that 2nd house, Scorpio Mars, it's like they're also very possessive over their personal belongings and like not so much sharing as caring. It's like, this is every man for himself. And so one of the main genres of the performers and like the musical acts was nu metal. NU metal, not new as in like NU, but NU metal, which blends the musical elements of metal with hip hop. And it was really popular in the late 90s, especially with young men. And their songs were more about like letting negative energy out rather than like taking positive energy in. So then I want to look at the 5th house. It's ruled by Aquarius with both Uranus and Neptune here. And these are like generational planets. So it's kind of like this is a representation of like the music of the generation. But also with it being in Aquarius, like these musical acts are more experimental and unique. And the 5th house is along with music and performance, it's also partying. And with Neptune here, there's a lot of drugs. So again, that's another similarity between 1969 and 99. But I think the key difference here, and I'm kind of making an inference, is that there were probably a lot less hallucinogenic drugs and a lot more like cocaine and alcohol. And of course weed, but weed was probably there in 1969 too. So like instead of being more chill and mellowed out, these people were more amped up. And so taking all this into account, the environment is incredibly overstimulating. There's little access to food and water. There's no clean running water. There's overbearing temperatures made worse from all the tarmac, all over the Air Force Base. And there's a bunch of people, loud blaring music. So like, of course, all the drunken high adolescents like devolved into insanity and riots. This doesn't condone any of the things that happened, but I do think it's important context to include, because if Woodstock 1999 hadn't been so poorly planned and managed, had it been designed only thinking about how to make a profit, then the craziness of the crowd might not have been so bad. Yeah, of course, a poorly designed event like this was going to lead to like chaos. Yeah. I also think all of the crazy things that are like happening in the background, like this is very much like Virgo Venus in my head. Like Venus doesn't like being in Virgo. Yeah. Virgo is all about the small details, and it's very acutely aware of like every little thing, and it notices all the problems a lot quicker, because it's mercurial and it wants to fix things. It wants to make them better. And in this environment, there's so little that you can do to prevent all of these like inconveniences and like all of these overstimulating parts to the environment. It's really annoying, but like there's nothing you can do. And so it's kind of always in the back of people's minds. And I think that everybody had to have been overstimulated and not like, I just think that the environment really led to some of the things that happened. But from this moment, I'm going to discuss the topic of sexual assault and harassment against women. So I just wanted to give a little bit of a warning that if you don't want to listen to that, you can stop listening now.
Yeah, I was waiting for that 12th house Venus topic.
Yeah. And I won't go into detail about any of the things that happened, but that is a majorly defining part of Woodstock 1999. So I'll get into it now. So there were an estimated 200,000 attendees at Woodstock 1999. And over the course of the festival, there were numerous reports of sexual assault. I couldn't find a specific number, but all of the sources implied that there were multiple reports of sexual assault and 4 reported rapes. But the number is likely much higher because, especially in the 90s, not everyone who experienced something like this was going to report it. And there's 100 reasons why somebody might not do that. And there but it's safe to say that the number of assaults was likely much higher than what was reported. There's also dozens of reports from concert goers and like media personnel who were there, like reporting on Woodstock 99, who witnessed violence against women, such as women being groped while crowd surfing or being pulled by force into mosh pits. MTV even has broadcast clips from the festival that feature images of topless women being touched without their consent by men that they probably didn't know. And the problem was not that they were topless. It was that there were thousands of men who thought that these women were here for their entertainment. And there was this free love mindset amongst the attendees at the Woodstock 1969. And so nudity was a big part of that. And so women were free to do the same things that men were free to do, such as like take off their shirts and expose their chest. But the attitude at 1969 Woodstock was a lot more caring. And in Woodstock 1999, the expectation, like people probably went into it thinking, oh, this is going to be fine. I can go without my shirt off. I can I can be free. But unfortunately, this was taken advantage of by many of the men, and many of the women were hurt and assaulted in the process. And a lot probably made to feel like them showing up without a shirt on, like it somehow made it their fault. It was like, oh, you're inviting this.
Yeah, that's a very 1990s way of thinking about things. Yeah.
When it's like these men should have just kept their hands to themselves and let the women enjoy the festival, but instead they assaulted them. And so again, the 12th house, Venus in Virgo, it's making a square to the Moon-Pluto conjunction in Sagittarius in the 3rd house. And the Venus is the chart ruler. So it's one of the most essential parts of the chart. And it's kind of like putting the safety and concerns of women in the background. It was not a priority. We also don't know how much violence happened at the event. We can only imagine how many people were hurt. And this Virgo Venus is ruled by the 11th house Leo Mercury, which is retrograde, conjunct the sun. And I would interpret this as like a large crowd full of people who feel entitled to access these women and use them as they please. Again, it's kind of adding a little selfish energy, like the Leo archetype of the sun, fixed fire. It's all about me, me, me. And the security also was not helpful in preventing this violence. You talked about how the institutions here are not doing what they should be doing. If we look at Saturn and Taurus in the 8th house, it's making the opposition to the Scorpio Mars, and it's squaring the Aquarius Uranus. And so they were understaffed. They were not trained. They were unprepared to manage the chaos that would eventually ensue. And a lot of the security team just ended up quitting before the event ended. Many of them probably were just there to make money, a quick weekend job to make some extra cash. And there were a lot of reports from members of the security team who were like, I've never done this before. I've just helped my parents kick some guy out of a bar every now and then, been a bouncer or something. And so with the 8th house and Taurus, 8th house ruling over other people's finances, Taurus being ruled by Venus, both Taurus and Venus kind of representing money and wealth, things devolved into chaos. And then they realized that the check wasn't worth it, and they pieced out. And with the 8th house ruler in the 12th house, I wonder if I don't think I saw much about this, but I feel like there were probably questions about are we even going to get paid for this? Yeah. Who was in charge of paying them? How were they going to get paid? And a more optimistic way I could look at interpreting the ruler of the 12th house, the ruler of the 8th house, being Venus and the 12th house, is maybe security was more focused on helping those who were getting hurt behind the scenes and assaulted in the crowd. But at the same time, I could interpret it security wasn't paying enough attention to those things happening behind the scenes. And then we also have the vendors at the festival were definitely there to make money. They were gouging prices. for essential goods. But then on the final day of the festival, Sunday, July 25th, the crowd resorted to riots and started stealing from everyone. Not only were they stealing from like the booths and the vendors, but they started harassing the security guards as well as stealing from other concert goers. So it was just like a free for all. And again, like these people have been sleeping outside on a hot ass Air Force base, sleeping amongst the trash. It smells terrible because there's raw sewage coming out of the porta potties, and like the food and drink that they can access is going quickly. Like the supply is running down. Everything is overpriced. Everybody is probably like agitated and annoyed and like hungover. And it doesn't excuse what happened, but I think it really does add context. And so Sunday afternoon, this is the final day of the festival. An anti-gun advocacy group handed out thousands of candles for a vigil during the festival. So this
I said there's going to be guns. I said there's going to be guns.
There's actually no guns, but there is fire.
Okay.
There's definitely a lot of fire. Okay. So this happened right after the Red Hot Chili Peppers did their initial performance. Okay. They were about to come out for an encore. And one of the band members says, "It looks like Apocalypse Now out there," referring to a raging bonfire that had started in the middle of the audience. So like they could already see that fires had started, really big fires. People were setting, like, what are those things called? Where like the towers where people will have like lights and stuff. Oh my gosh, I forget what those things are called. Like towers, all these like tech things related to the concert.
Okay, like I'm sure, I get like the things that hold the lights, but they're like ribbed. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, so they're setting all of that on fire.
Okay.
And so right before their encore is when the fires start. And I think I have a chart for right when the riot started. Let me see if I can share that one. I actually didn't look into if this one was, I didn't really look into this chart all that much, but I did have it just in case. But this one has an Aquarius rising.
Mars in the 10th and Pluto in the 11th. That sounds pretty riot-like to me.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Especially, yeah. And then the Sagittarius 11th house with the Pluto there is like,
conjunct the midheaven.
Yeah, they're definitely rioting. Yeah. So the anti-gun group had handed out all these candles. So everybody has these candles that they are now using to light everything on fire. And
I love that it's an anti-gun group that delivers fire to them. That is so hilarious.
It's like, here's the kindling that we're going to use to like light everything on fire.
Yeah.
But the Red Hot Chili Peppers thought it would be a great idea to perform a cover of a Jimi Hendrix song called Fire. Okay. And so then they start performing Fire. And then, as you might expect, the already crazy fires continue to grow and grow. And then the concert goers start to use their peace candles to light everything on fire.
Which is so insane. That is also the most debilitated Venus thing I could think of.
Yes. Yeah. This is supposed to be used for peace and love. Let's light things on fire.
Mercury retrograde, supplying that debilitated Venus in Leo, which is hilarious.
Yeah. Like the fire signs in this chart are ruling over. Oh, well, okay. Now I'm sharing a different chart than I was talking about in my little script thing. But so the fire signs in the 1999 chart are ruling over the 3rd house, the 7th house, and the 11th houses of this chart. And I think that it just like very much speaks to like the fire like mentality. So like the 3rd house being ruled by Sagittarius with the moon and Pluto conjunct. I think it's significant to point out, I already said this, that Woodstock 1969 began on a moon-Pluto conjunction as well, with 1 degree separating.
Yeah.
So it's like a very extreme mindset that this public has, and like very much move towards extremes, motivated to do big things, to make a scene. Then the 11th house being ruled by Leo with the sun and Mercury there, it highlights like the mob mentality there. Like everybody's there to see celebrities, like their favorite bands, their musicians that they idolize. But also it's kind of like the real like celebrity, like the real like people who made history here really were like the 11th house, like the audience, the crowd at large, because like I didn't hear about Woodstock 1999 because Limp Bizkit was so good. I heard about it because the audience went absolutely insane and set everything on fire and started rioting and looting. So the audience made this event like make history. And otherwise it would have just been like a Woodstock anniversary performance. And then the 7th house being ruled by Aries, I've kind of already talked about that, but everyone was literally setting fire to everything. Aries, cardinal fire. Cardinal is like beginnings, the beginning of the seasons, Mars action, and then like Mars and Scorpio in the 2nd house, like destruction of property. I thought that I had a little bit more to talk about here, but I think I just like ran through that.
You did such a great job. Oh my God. Thank you so much. This is really, really fun. I was just thinking it would be cool to be at an astrology conference and have like the Astrology of Terrible Things World Cup. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And like you have like a panel of astrologers. You show a chart. It has to be on hard mode. We have to take off the outer panel. And you get to write down maybe your list of 20, like kind of like Jeopardy. Like you write down your list of like 20 significations or delineations that you notice. And then everyone gets a certain amount of time. And then all together, you like show your poster board or your card or your PowerPoint screen that has your delineations, and you everyone explains their delineations, and then the audience votes on whoever got the most accurate delineation for the chart. I
love that. Oh, see, this is such a fun game, and I just like wish I had more like astrology friends to like. And now we can be the astrology friends who play this game together.
I know.
Because also so many people know like different terrible events than me. Like, I don't know, like my brain, I've noticed that I am researching every single assassination ever. And I'm like so interested in assassinations for some reason. But then like some people might be really interested in like natural disasters and like earthquakes and tsunamis and things like that. Yeah. I don't know. I would love other people's perspectives too.
Yeah, cool. This has been so fun. Thank you so much, Emily. You all can find Emily at TikTok at Emily Simile. Emily spelled with an I-E instead of a Y. And this is the Astrology of Terrible Things podcast. Definitely to be subscribed to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on Instagram at the Astrology of Terrible Things, all one word. And let's invite people to share their personal terrible thing that has happened to them.
Ooh, I have a terrible event chart that I could show you.
I'd be open to seeing, like you are welcome to share a chart of a terrible thing that happened to you on one of these episodes, and I'll try to figure it out. And if you have a chart of a terrible thing that happened to you, send it in. We'll talk about it. And I think we should do a thing where, you'll have to write up what happens, but maybe like leave a lot of space, like share the chart in email. But then like leave a lot of space so that I don't see the words right away. And then when we record the episode, I can then scroll down to the bottom of your email and see, what actually happened.
What exactly happened.
Or I share it for Emily and Emily doesn't know.
And Emily guesses.
And Emily guesses. And so
tries to guess what your trauma is.
Exactly. And so my email is theastrologyofterriblethings@gmail.com. You are welcome to send in a chart, send in a date and time and location if you don't know how to do a chart, and do a write-up of what the terrible thing was that happened. And we will talk about it on the show. And that's it. We bring you these terrible things so that you know that terrible things will always happen. We are in a universe that's a cycle of growth and decay. There's nothing that you can do to stop it. So instead of being like, no, we can't talk about the terrible things. Oh no. Just like, let's just study them. Let's just talk about them. Why do you think bad things happen, Emily?
That is a great question. Same reason why good things happen. I don't know. I think there's good and bad in everything, and you can't have anything good if there isn't a little bit of bad, the calm before the storm. No, that's not the right metaphor.
I think it's the natural cycle of everything.
Yeah.
It's like you are given a cake. Oh my God, I love this cake. I'm going to eat this cake. But if you keep on eating the cake, eventually you'll get a stomach ache. Yes. And then you'll be like, oh no, I have a stomach ache. Let me take some medicine for that. And then you feel better. And then you're feeling better. And then you decide to go for a run and you're feeling really good on your run. But if you keep on running for too long, you'll get tired, and that's Saturn. Mm-hmm. And eventually you'll have to go to sleep. And so that's just life. That's just what happens. Yeah.
Every action has a equal opposite reaction. Yeah.
So we'll have to have a deep philosophical talk about that one of these days. But in the meantime, It's been really fun. And you all can tune in to future episodes right here, wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to be subscribed, like, and share so that other people can find this. And you are welcome to talk to us anytime. So send us an email. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yay.
Bye.